Three, two, one, and action. Hey there. First question. Can you tell us how you became involved in Big Trouble in China? Yes, of course. I was working at Boss Film, Richard Edlund's. You know, we had been on a roll. After Ghostbusters, we did Fright Night, uh, and then I believe we did Poltergeist 2. And so, of course, the next one, with generally the same team, was Big Trouble in Little China. So we were already just machine gun firing out the greatest hits of the 80s. My exact role on the visual effects team is I was in charge of the creature effects and the prosthetic effects. Of course, we've got the prosthetic effect for James Hong as the old Lopan, and there's quite a few prosthetic effects in it as well. But you know, mostly it was the bigger effects: thunder exploding, the sewer monster, the giant mechanical thing that shot out at them, the all-seeing eye. My God, I can't even remember the Wild Man. You know, the makeup effects. Um, General atmosphere on the film. Well, you know, it's a comedy, so just like with Ghostbusters, we all had a really good time, and it was the '80s, so there's some unspoken things that come along with that. But let's just say that it was a blast. How did you approach the design of the creatures, particularly the God damn it, would you say that? Particularly the multi-eyed guardian and the wild man? Well, all of that stuff came from actual uh, Chinese mythology. So when I was first invited upon the project, John and his production team already had some very general, basic ideas of what this stuff should look like because it actually originated from true mythology. How free were you in your artistic choices, or were you constrained by John? I was constrained by John. What had happened is John had come off a couple of very effects-heavy projects. The Thing, in which famously Rob Bottin tried to wrestle the wheel away from John during production and succeeded. You know, and henceforth created probably the greatest practical effects film ever. But John was very burned by that. And so when I came in wanting to out Bottin, because John had worked with Dick Smith, John had worked with Rick Baker on Jesus, what was the movie? Starman. He worked with everybody. So when I came in, I was like, okay, well, this is my chance to show John, you know, that I'm as good as all those guys. And he didn't want to hear it. He did not want to hear it. He just wanted to go as straightforward as possible, and as inexpensive as possible, and as in the not time consuming. He wanted to go bam, bam, bam on set. And what I did is I didn't listen to him. Didn't listen to it at all. I had my own facility out there in Marina Del Rey, and I'm like, okay, I'd go in to meet with John on the Fox lot, and he's like, no, I don't want arm extensions on the Wild Man. And he goes, no, I don't want them. I don't want to do it. And I'm like, I just did it anyway. Okay, what materials and techniques did you use to build the creatures? Well, we used all the techniques and materials that were available to us in the day. They look antiquated now, but cable controlled. All of these things look clunky now because they would be done digitally, in most cases. But you know, we were using tried and true techniques that Rick Baker and Rob Bottin and Greg Cannon had taught me. 1980s techniques. What were the biggest technical challenges on set? Well, I mean, in general, the biggest technical challenge was the flying eye. I mean, that thing was so filled with motors that we had to make at least two of them. One that you could shoot from the front, because all of the cables and the rods and the puppeteers were going not only through the back of the puppet, but they were going through a blue screen as well. So we had to make a custom blue screen that we could operate through. But then we had to make another one that we could see from the back. And then we had a miniature rod puppet, you know, kind of like Slimer, kind of like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Can you tell us about the scene where thunder explodes? How is this effect designed? Well, you know, I wanted to do something unlike what we had done in the Howling, the first Howling, where, you know, you put Bob Picardo, I forget his name, Eddie, in the movie. You put him in prosthetic cheeks, and you put bladders under that. So what we did to start this inflation process on Thunder is we made a full mechanical head. I flew to New York, did a life cast of Carter Wong. And instead of doing it as a makeup, we started with an exact animatronic likeness of Carter that could inflict. So that started the scene, and then we went on throughout storyboards to do different sequence of, different heads, close-ups on the hands, feet, etc. You can probably figure it out just by watching the movie. Were there any tensions, creative disagreements, or moments of collective genius? That's two questions in one. Collective genius, sure. I mean, I think all the effects are pretty cool in that film. I love the Lopan thing. And, that was the greatest thing about working with Richard Edlund. I had another tool in my toolbox that I never had working with Rick Baker or Greg Cannon or Rob Bottin, which was the optical fallback, not digital, but optical. So we did some amazing things. And when Lopan transforms from his old self to his young self, I think it is, he goes translucent. It was just magic, because I could say, Richard, how are we going to do this? Because we don't want to use a cutaway, do we? And he goes, I guess we'll have beams of light shoot over his mouth and eyes. You make a fake head that we can see the inner workings of. You put some actual practical lighting in it, and then we'll have it blow out. And when it calms back down, it'll be the next actor. So that was really, really cool. Which of the film's monsters is your favorite and why? That is so easy. I never like favorites, but my favorite is the old Lopan makeup, because James Hong is so funny. He's hysterical. Two girls with green eyes. This one has fire as well. Oh my God, James was so fun to work with, and that character, it's overdone. The makeup looks like, I don't like it anymore. I think it just looks like a clown makeup, basically. But he's supposed to be 3,000 years old. It kind of fits the style of the film, and James is what brings it to life. If it weren't for James Hong's performance, that makeup would not work at all. How do you look back on your work in Big Trouble in Little China as a creature you wish you'd reworked or done differently in hindsight? Not really. I mean, at the time, I was bowing down to Carpenter's wishes, which was to do it fast and quick and not overthink it. And although that caused a lot of tension between us, it fits the style of the movie. How the film influenced your subsequent career? Do you think this type of film could still be made today with practical effects? Yeah. I mean, just look at the new Ghostbusters films. There's some practical, there's some digital, and most of the diehard fans prefer the practical. I hope this all helps, and I'll send this stuff off to you now. Good luck with it.